Hey icons, welcome back to my channel. I am gonna be doing a quarter 1 reading wrap up with you guys. So we'll go over what I read in January, February, and March so far this year. You'll just kind of get a glimpse into what my 2026 reading has been looking like so far. I will say I've been doing really good with getting my reading in, but not all the books that I've really been wanting to read, and honestly not a lot of books that have really stuck with me and that I 100% loved, but there are some things that were pretty good. So we'll kind of get into that more as I go through each month with you. Yeah, I'm excited to do my first quarter wrap up. So I got all of my physical copies of books pulled down off my shelves, and then I do have my Herkyed tracker here that Cordy had made, so that I can just kind of follow along and remember what all of my ratings were and all of the details about the book. We'll just kind of start going through. The first book that I had finished in January, but I did start it in December. It was Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animals. So this was the first book in Megan Quinn's little Kringletown series, because I think there is a third one that will be released later this year. So yeah, this was the first book that I finished. As you can see, I don't have the physical copy of it. I did mostly e-read it on my Kindle, and then I also listened to it a little bit off of Spotify. I read the second book for my book club, which now I'm completely blanking on what the second book even was. Guys, I had it all wrong. This was the second book. The first book is How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. I don't know what I was thinking. I read the second book first, and then I read the first book second, which was fine, but obviously I got some spoilers for how this book went, so that's why I ended up finishing it later in January, was because I was just kind of not into it anymore, since reading the second book first spoiled some stuff for me. I had started with the second book. I believe we were reading the second book for my book club, but I was no, I kind of want to read the first book. So I'd also simultaneously started trying to read the first book, and reading them at the same time caused the spoilers. I also have been struggling to read smut. I'll be so blunt. Yeah, I've been really struggling to get through smut and enjoy smut in any sense. I don't know, I was struggling there as well, but that's okay. Looks like I ended up rating that a 3 stars, which is pretty good. I'd say that's pretty good. Next book. This one's funny. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is Dale Carnegie's book. It was originally written in the 1930s, and then they just created more updated versions since then. For this book, I had my brother's physical paper copy, and then I also listened to it a little bit at the end. I only started listening to it because I finished it in January, and I started reading it in September, so it's been a good, nice 4 full-blown months on that. My cat needs help. I'm gonna help him in a second. And not that it was necessarily bad, I just A, struggle with nonfiction in general. B, I was allowing myself to start reading way too many books at a time and just couldn't lock in and finish any of the books that I was trying to read all simultaneously. I just wasn't feeling it. We listened to the last third of the book maybe, but it was pretty interesting. My sociology brain had kind of made me more interested in the subject. It could be something that other people would really love and enjoy. That one was a little hard to get through though. I did still end up rating it 4 stars, so clearly I somewhat liked it. Now I will say my rating scale, I need to hone in on her at some point. She's a little sporadic. To be honest, she doesn't always make sense to me, but I do rate books based off of how I felt in the moment. It might not always be accurate with how I feel a month or 2 later, so I don't remember too much about that book. I don't know why I rated it 4 stars, but I liked it enough apparently. I'm gonna go help my cat. Alright, my camera is gonna die soon, and I'm hoping I can just power through and make it through this video before it dies, but we'll see. So the next book that I finished was Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is the third and final book in the Powerless trilogy. I loved the whole series, honestly. I rated this book 4.5 stars. The ending of it was so good. I think my only complaint with it was, low-key, we needed a fourth book. There was like a whole other society kind of that was like talked about in other like islands and like these other places that existed that I almost wish we could have like dived into a little bit more. We got to see like some of the places, but there was places that kept getting mentioned that we just like, we didn't get a whole lot of. We kind of like briefly took a little peek at them. My only complaint was that this series just kind of felt cut short. People do spin-off like series of their trilogies all the time. Like it started off as like one concept, but the world just became so much that they were able to turn it into other series. Literally the Addicted like universe, like Zodiac Academy, like they've turned it into Ruthless Boys, or for the Addicted universe they turned it into the Calloway Sisters series, and then I know there's also a series for their children, so like maybe we'll get that in the future. That was my only complaint really for that book. The next book that I read, which I'm gonna go ahead and just hold the same book instead of pulling it up, but it was Fearful. So it is the last novella in this series. Now this series is considered like a trilogy, but there is 2 novellas in it. So I read Powerful, Between Powerless and Reckless, read that one, loved that one, then finished the series, and then I read Fearful. It was so good. It was so good. People hated it. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. I loved Mira as a character. Like I loved the concept of death being created as a character and like getting to see what was happening with Kit during this story. Like understanding why he was being such a freak. It was so good. 5 stars. Honestly, would recommend this series to everyone. I loved it. I personally really loved it. However, you do have to like enjoy reading YA to love it. So my camera's gonna die. All right, the next book that I read was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. My cat is running around, so cute. But this is the second book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I don't know, I feel like I've told everyone this, but obviously I probably haven't said this on YouTube, but I took a like 15+ year pause in my reading journey, my reading routine in life. I read when I was a child. I read through kindergarten. I remember I loved The Magic Tree House. Love those down. Literally would pick it up and finish it in a day. And like I was so proud of myself because I'm a 5-6-year-old child powering through those books and thought I was like amazing. And then I stopped reading, literally out of nowhere. And I think it was because of my peer views on reading. People were so caught up in like, oh, TV shows and movies, and like now Netflix is starting to stream, like all these different things, that reading just kind of like went out of the picture in conversation. So I didn't care to continue reading, which a flop on my part. I flopped at 6 years old. But I started picking up reading again when I was like 20, 21, and that's why I'm so delayed in reading things like this. So make fun of me all you want, but I'm still gonna pick them up and read them because I missed a huge chapter of like the reading spectrum and these areas of my life that I miss and wish that I got to experience. So I'm experiencing them now as a 24-year-old, and I'm not scared to admit it. Anyways, this was good. It was 4 stars. Loved it. I love Percy's brother. Oh my gosh, now I'm blanking. Anyways, I loved the whole aspect of there being a brother in this. Rick Riordan is such a witty writer to me as well. Like I love his little side comments that he kind of puts in there for the characters, and like it does genuinely feel like I'm reading from like a middle schooler's point of view, and it's just silly and witty and fun, and honestly, books like this make me enjoy reading again when I have kind of like lost that joy a little bit or when I'm in a slump. Always a good choice for me to pick up. All right, the next one that I picked up was The Woman in the Window, and this is by AJ Finn. So for this book, hey, she's trying to climb in the blinds. Hey, that don't work like that. She needed to sunbathe apparently. I've had this book for a while. I got it like as one of the first books ever in my personal library when I'd started reading back in 2022 or 2023. It was just one of them that I picked up from like Goodwill. I saw it and I was like, okay, that looks really interesting, and I'd read a couple thrillers. That was the genre that got me into reading in the first place, so I was like, I know that I'll like these like thriller-esque vibes. This book was pretty good. I do actually like kind of remember everything that happened. I ended up rating it a 4 stars. I can't lie though, thinking back on it now, I don't necessarily know why I rated it so high. I mean, not that it was bad, but it's like, now that I'm like speaking my rating system out loud, I wish my books that I rated higher were things that like genuinely fully resonated with me. Maybe 4 stars is accurate. I just gotta like think on my rating system a little bit more, and hopefully we can fine tune it and actually make it representative of me in the future. It is representative of me, it's just not what I want to represent. I don't know if that makes sense. Continuing on. Oh, this one was kind of a fun book. The next book that I read was To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This book was actually so fun. I low-key, not even low-key, I high-key enjoyed it. I rated it a 4 stars. It was almost like a Little Mermaid retelling, except instead of mermaids, it was sirens. So that was really fun. There was a whole like concept of they have to eat like human hearts, and the quote-unquote princess, I can't remember what like the term necessarily was, I don't think it was princess, but like the princess to the siren crown, she would only eat the heart of human princes. So like her mom was essentially Ursula, which was also insane. It was so good. I really enjoyed it personally. Maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm so glad I picked out that book. I will probably continue that series because I think there's another book in it. There might be more. There's at least one more book in the series that I know about. The next book that I read was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. So this, I actually watched the show before I'd read the book. I didn't even know it was a book. I came across the TV show. I think it was on Netflix, and I just like watched it because I was like, that's a really like interesting, crazy concept. So started it, watched it, and I was like, holy shit, this is fire, but also terrifying. Years later, when I was working at a bookstore, I saw it on our bookshelves as like a textbook, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole book. So I read it this year, and yeah, can say the same thing. It is a amazing story. Like, the concept is outrageous, but like imagining a person going through that is terrifying. It is fucking terrifying because people, white people, are and were evil, like absolutely evil. That whole concept, like, you hope it's fiction. You fucking hope. Such a good book. I obviously gave that one 5 stars. If you haven't read Kindred, please do. I need to read other Octavia E. Butler books. That book, yeah, I couldn't recommend it more. 5 stars, absolutely. It was insane. Terrifying, but so good. I haven't realized how much I enjoy and love science fiction until recently, but all of the science fiction books I've read thus far are actually like such terrifying concepts. And yes, all of these books I did read in January. I kind of went off in January for no reason. But the next book that I read was The Women by Kristen Hanna. This book took me on a roller coaster ride, babe, because why was I crying so hard? I was a mess. Our poor girl, Frankie, I I was down so bad for her. My empathetic, sympathetic ears could not handle the continual traumas that this poor girl was going through. Not only having to deal with war, but life after war. As a woman, she doesn't even get any recognition for the part that she played in the war, for all of the help that she gave, not only to soldiers, but to the people of America. Like, where was the recognition? This book had me in tears, had me angry, it had me feeling absolutely anything and everything. And I remember I read probably like 300 pages of this in a night, because like I couldn't put it down. It was so gut-wrenching, genuinely. Like this, and I read it right after I read Kindred. Was I okay? No, I was going through something in January, and I don't know what. Thinking back on these books now, like, oh my gosh. And obviously 5 stars for that one, if you couldn't tell from my emotions and my reactions. Ooh, this next one was good too. I actually, ignore what I said earlier. Apparently the end-ish of January was an insane time for me. The next book that I picked up was Cursed Cocktails by S.L. Rowland. So this book was Herkied kind of prompted. I had to do like a recommendation from Cordy, so I did one of her 5-minute cozy reviews and just kind of watched through a couple, and she had brought up this book, Cursed Cocktails by S.L. Rowland. I think it was in competition with her book for something. I can't remember specifically for what, but she was like, I can completely understand why that book like proceeded. And she was like, it's very similar to my book, but I like that book was good. Like I can understand why it proceeded. So I was like, okay, Cordy, I'll pick it up, girl. So I picked it up. I need to read Cordy's book, by the way. I want to read everything in the world. I want to be Rory Gilmore. I won't even play about that, but I only have so much time. I rated it 4.5 stars. The concept was so unique. It was just so fun. It's a cozy fantasy. It's literally about this guy like kind of becoming a bartender. That wasn't his initial intentions, but he wanted to recreate his dad's like cocktail recipes that his dad left in a journal from all of his like travels around the world. So it's this super like whimsical and just adorable story of kind of a found family and creating a beautiful environment and uplifting the community, and just a showcase of like love, and I loved it. This is where it got a little interesting in the month, because I picked up Jennette McCurdy's Half His Age. Jennette McCurdy's writing is fire. I will 100% say that. It is so good, and it's like good enough to the point where I didn't want to put the book down. I was intrigued enough. I wanted to hear what Jennette had to say. The story itself, though, not my cup of tea. And that's just me. That's just me. It was too grotesque. There was too many details that I would have been okay to miss out on, personally. Now, other people might be like, no babe, those were necessary, and might have ate it up and loved it. The overall concept of this being a 17-year-old and her English teacher. Please skip this if you do not want to know anything about Half His Age. And the whole like, I'll say it. If you don't want to know anything about this book, please skip ahead, but I'll say it. The whole sniffing the sea and then also like catching her period blood. Okay, Jennette, girl, yes, okay, whatever, whatever. 2.75 stars. It didn't click with me, but I will acknowledge that the writing was good, and it was a page turner for sure. However, I regretted turning the page almost every time. The next book and the last book that I read in January, don't worry, I only read 12, which is still insane to say. I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho? I'm so sorry. I picked up this book because I was trying to fit in a translated works for Herkied, and I had just done some research because, to be honest, I don't think I was that aware of too many like translated books. I'd done some research. Obviously there's like Frederick Bachman, I know that now, but I wanted to kind of hit several different languages, so I saw The Alchemist as an option, and then I saw that it was like actually insanely popular, and apparently it's been popular for a hot minute, and all these like famous people have been seen carrying it around, reading it, or have like made comments about it and loved it so much. That's why I picked it up. It was a good story, cute. I don't know how well it resonated with me, but like I can acknowledge what people can gain from reading that story. I rated it 3.25 stars. Now that was just a personal take. I know now how infamous and like great this book is and how much other people love it. It didn't resonate with me. So like please don't come in. I had a better time with it than I've had with other books, as we can see. Yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. The only book that I ended up finishing in February was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This was read for my book club, and we did start it in January, so I had been reading it for about a month to like keep the pace with my book club. It was pretty dang good. I ended up rating it, yeah, it looks like I ended up rating it a 4 stars. I do kind of want to reread it though. I don't think I understood the writing style at first, and I think now like looking back I can understand it almost more, having the full perspective of the story. However, I do want to continue this series. This is the only book that I own in the series thus far, just because I wanted to try it before I buy it. I did enjoy it, but it's definitely something that I feel like I would need to go back and like reread to fully connect with and understand. But also I'm probably just going to continue the series to start out with and just see how that goes. I am fully Team Darrow. Team Darrow's the only team. The next book that I read, and the first book that I read in March, was The Compound by Aisling Roll. So this book, I actually kind of ate it up. I won't even play. I ended up rating it 3.75 stars. I feel like I had seen such hit or miss with it. People either loved it or they hated it. It was such an interesting concept to me, and like pretty unique from anything that I've read thus far. But then again, like, remember the whole me missing 15 years, so don't come at me if it's not unique to you. But yeah, it was a very interesting concept. I love the whole idea of it being like reality TV, but fucked. I would read something like that again, and probably something by this author again. Right, I was a little late to the game in reading this, but Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. This was a new release in February, but I read it in March. Loved it. I loved it. I rated it 4.25 stars. You know how I said Rick Riordan's all like witty and like kind of quirky and stuff? Matt Dinniman, he writes the adult version of the witty stuff that Rick Riordan serves in Percy Jackson, at least to me. It was such an interesting concept. It was a video game that these players could play that was like destroying real people's lives. It was so cool. I have Dungeon Crawler Carl on my like TBR somewhere on these shelves, so I am definitely going to pick that up and read that book. My first book by Matt Dinniman, and I was super impressed. I loved it. So the next book that I read, and this book I had started reading in January and just finished in March, but it was The Shuddering by Anaya Alborn. Now for this one, it's not necessarily the book's fault. I was in a major reading slump for most of February. It started kind of towards the end of January, I think, because I read 12 books in that month. But I had picked up The Shuddering and was trying to read that and just wasn't like getting into it, so I probably stopped after like 2 or 3 chapters. Maybe not even that far, because the chapters were really long. Maybe like one singular chapter. I didn't read much until a couple weeks ago, and then I finished it and I enjoyed it. It was my first official like horror book, but I will say I want to try ones that I think that I'll like even more, and I think I'll like Stephen King's writing even more. So not that it was bad, just kind of things that I've like seen in a movie already. That's okay, it's not that it was bad. I ended up rating that one 3 stars, so it was pretty average, I guess, to me. And the next book that I read, and this book was released on my birthday, so I had to read it. It was Just Friends by Haley Pham, which my name's also Haley, so like hello, had to read it. This book I ended up rating a 2.75 stars. It's her debut novel, and I feel like she's gotten very, very unwarranted hate. I won't even play. Like, people are straight up being rude to Haley about this book. And no, it's not the greatest thing ever written in the world. I'm not saying that it is. However, you have to acknowledge it's a debut novel. She is allowed to grow and become better from her first attempt. This is her first freaking attempt. Like, give her some room to breathe. I don't know. People are actually being so vile and foul. I just can't stand with it or stand for it, and I don't love to see that. So although it was not my favorite romance book ever, it was good. I think she can definitely grow and expand, and I definitely would read her other works. I don't think all of the hate is necessary, and I think it's kind of weird. Alright, the last book that I actually finished this month was Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. I would literally only have 20 seconds left to film, so this book, I ended up rating it 4 stars. Obviously, again, the whole witty concept. Love the little like side comments that he makes for the characters, and being halfway through the series now, over halfway, is making me kind of sad. I literally only have 2 books left in the series, and then I'm done, and I'm all caught up with Percy Jackson, so it's tragic. But 4-star baddie, Rick Riordan, so good, love it, and that's the end of my time, I think, so. I deleted some things off my camera so I could film this last little clip before my camera ends up dying on me, but if I can get it up in the air. This is the full stack of physical books that I ended up reading over the last quarter, and then as you saw, there's a whole other stack that would have been my ebooks and audiobooks that I also consumed, but super good and happy first quarter of the year. I'm definitely looking forward to what this next quarter of the year is going to bring. I think a lot of more solid reads. I'm currently starting off my quarter, which I also kind of ended it with this book because I started it yesterday on the 31st of March, but I'm starting it off with Legendary. So that's by Stephanie Garber. That's the second in the Caraval series, and I'm actually really loving that book right now, even more than I loved Caraval. And then I'm also currently in the middle of reading Alchemized, which I've also been reading since January. That book is just so thick, I can't even lie, I'm struggling. I hope you guys have enjoyed your first 3 months of reading, and let me know some of your favorite reads that you've had so far this month. I need to know all the 5 stars. I need to add them to my list, and I need to clock in for the rest of the year. I have a goal to read 125 books this year, which is insane. I will bluntly say that. It's insane. I had a goal to read 100 last year, and I think I only read 58. So yes, I understand upping that goal that I already couldn't meet was an insane idea, and me only reading 18 books for the first 3 months of the year might set me up for failure, but we are baddies. We're locking back in. We are not letting the slump defeat us, and we are going to read as many books as possible this year while still having fun and enjoying it. I'm not trying to put myself in a bad mindset with reading. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for hanging out with me. Be the baddest baddie you could possibly be. Bye!